Well, again, everyone, and welcome back to Kovac Enterprises. We are working on the Mack truck, the R685ST, for the Big Rig Group Build that's hosted by Thomas Soltis and Jeff's Model Garage. We started moving ahead on this kit by completing the engine to chassis segment of the instructions. And we also did a little bit more work on the chassis accessories to the point where went ahead and painted the color on the chassis with the accessory parts and detailed and weathered it up and kind of made it look kind of dirty looking because it's a working truck. We're also going to kind of talk about where I started some of the interior painting as far as prepping it with some primer. So with that being said, stand by and we will be right back. Okay, and we're back, and as you can see in front of you, we got a lot accomplished. We went ahead and completed the engine to chassis segment of the instructions, and let's go ahead and take a close look at that. So we basically, once everything was painted that needed to be painted on the chassis with all the accessory parts, we went ahead and glued in the engine inside the chassis frame here. So there you go, there's that. We also included the radiator and glued that on as well. And maybe the camera can pick up on this, but part of the front of the radiator, I went ahead and used the Sharpie pen to apply the metallic silver, just to kind of give a little more highlight and detail on it. The other thing that I did once the engine was in there, we went ahead and installed the drive shaft to the rear suspension and to the back end of the engine itself. So that is done, as you can see right there. And as far as the square tank that I used, I went ahead and installed that. And in my previous video we were talking about where I didn't have a hole in the front part of the end caps of the fuel tanks. So what I ended up doing was actually using a 1/8 inch drill bit, and I marked where it needed to go for the holes. We went ahead and drilled it, and then we went ahead and inserted the support to hold the fuel tanks in place, and went ahead and glued that onto the chassis itself. So that worked out really well. We'll go ahead and kind of set this back for a moment. Bring it forward, kind of bring it a little closer for you. Oops, let's get on the stand here. All right. Okay, so basically I started with 3 paints, basically the primer and then the paint I was going to use to paint the chassis with. And the first paint I used was basically the Craftsmart gray paint to use as a primer, and I actually hand brushed all this onto the chassis frame itself. So far I have not used an airbrush. I just kind of found with this particular kit, with all the details and everything involved, it was easier to control the paint through a actual brush itself. So that's what I did. Once I did that, I went ahead and applied some Folk Art Silver Sterling as well, and this is some metallic paint. And the other metallic paint I used is the Folk Art Gunmetal Gray. So that is that. So those are the basically 3 colors I used to apply to the truck itself. I'll kind of bring it in a little bit closer here again for you. As you can see, we have the let me bring the light back. Okay, so as you can see, we detailed and weathered everything up using those 3 paints. And of course this is the rear suspension with the 5th reel. And I also dabbed a little bit of some of the Craftsmart black satin around the 5th wheel to kind of illustrate where there might be some oil or grease where they attach the trailer to it. This still moves back and forth, but that's what we did. So there you go. We'll just kind of do a slow walk through. Once all the paint was painted on there and I liked what I saw, I went ahead and applied 2 coats of the Future with a hand brush and sealing the paint. So that's where we're at there. I'll kind of go to the other side here. And of course that's the underside of the rear suspension, as well as the drive shaft and the tank reserve. There you go. All right. So next up, I'll go ahead and apply the wheels to the frame of the truck and give it like a little mock setup, and we'll be right back. Okay, so here we are. We got the 10 wheels put in place. They're not glued in yet, but just kind of give you an indication of what it looks like. Looks like it's got a pretty good stance to it. Everything looks pretty level. So we'll do a quick little 360 here for you. And I really like how this thing is turning out. So there's the other side there. And we'll rotate it back in place. Alright. There you go. So so far so good. So basically at this point we're just about finished with the next segment in the instructions on the chassis accessories. Basically the only thing that really needs to be done is the putting the mud flaps on, the rear license plate, and of course the tail light and the backup light. And then it's pretty well done at that point. And then of course then we get into the interior work. Now I've started basically hand brushing some primer on the interior bucket of the truck, and we can kind of look at this real quick. So here we are. So like I said, we're still using our Craftsmart gray paint for this, and just kind of bringing out the details on the doors themselves, and as you can see there. And then of course there's the driver's side. And then of course we're working on the seats and the seat mounts. So like I said, we're initially just prepping everything for the interior bucket, getting ready for, until we put on a base color. So there's that one seat there. And of course then we have the passenger seat, which is right here. So that's all glued in, ready to go. And you can see here with the seats we have our little Mac dog right there on the head of the seat there. So we'll bring him to life with some paint as we proceed forward with this. So there's that. And then I went ahead and put together the steering wheel and the steering column. And of course we put some primer on that. So you can see that. Alright. So that is done. So like I said, we're moving along, and there'll be more to come, of course, as we move forward with our next steps in the instructions. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a good weekend, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Big Rig group build. So till then, have a nice day, and we will see you soon. Bye.